And good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for attending this afternoon. I'd also like to thank the Special Coordinator for her leadership role in this international election observation mission, as well as to thank my colleagues here on the podium, Carrie and George. Thank you for your assistance and for your hard work. Our team of experts began our work here in Armenia more than 1 month ago. And I would like to thank the Armenian authorities for the invitation to observe these elections and for their assistance during our stay in this country. In that time, we have had long-term observers deployed in every part of the country observing the election process. And it's important to emphasize, as George has, that an election is far more than just one day. That is why we have been here to observe the entire process leading up to yesterday's vote, including the pre-campaign period. And we will be staying some time to observe the finalization of results and the resolution of any complaints and appeals also. This week, as you know, we were joined by a team of short-term observers from the OSCE participating states, and we have joined forces with observers from the parliamentary assemblies of both the OSCE and the Council of Europe. And with more than 300 short-term observers in the field, we were able to make a comprehensive assessment of these early elections. And I want to use this opportunity as well to thank those parties and alliances, as well as organizations and institutions that we met during our time here for their cooperation. The first point that I would like to make is that at no time were we obstructed from doing our observation work by any of the state or local authorities. This was also true when it came to our election day observations. In fact, the administrative authorities worked openly with us at all times. We also engaged with members of civil society, as well as with representatives of the political parties and alliances contesting this election, and all of these engagements were professional. In short, the observation mission was able to do its work, observe in an independent and impartial manner the extent to which these elections were conducted in accordance both with national legislation, but also in line with international commitments that Armenia and all OSCE participating states have entered into. And I'd like to now mention briefly some of the things that we have observed in this period. Candidates could campaign freely throughout the election process, and fundamental rights and freedoms were generally respected, and voters were provided with a broad range of options, leading to a competitive election. The late adoption of amendments to the legal code did create some legal uncertainty, and did impact upon administrative areas like training of officials and voter education. But the legal framework is comprehensive overall. The election authorities delivered on their mandate professionally and enjoy the confidence of stakeholders, and the process was generally well managed. There were many accusations leveled by political contestants at each other, accusations of improper or illegal conduct. These accusations, combined with increasingly inflammatory rhetoric, served to draw attention away from more substantive issues. But they also intensified the polarization that characterized these elections. And this atmosphere was not constructive to informed public debate. I'd also like to mention that while we recognise the important improvements and laws to increase female participation in Parliament, as Carrie has touched upon, women tended to be sidelined throughout the campaign itself. This does not lend itself to increasing female participation in public life, notwithstanding the improvements to candidate quotas and placement on candidate lists. Another aspect of the campaign worth highlighting is in relation to campaign finance laws. While there are detailed campaign finance laws in place, these laws do not cover every aspect of campaign expenditure, for example, organizational expenses, and this creates opportunities to circumvent campaign spending limits. It's also contrary to repeated and long-standing recommendations from both ODIHR and the Venice Commission. And when we look at the media landscape, we see that it is diverse, but there are concerns which continue to be highlighted to observers regarding political affiliations of certain broadcasters. We also noted a number of recent instances of physical harassment of journalists, which raises some questions about respect for media freedom. The ODIHR Election Observation Mission commenced its media monitoring on the 24th of May, with both quantitative and qualitative analysis of 7 television channels, including the public broadcaster, 1 public radio station, and 3 online media outlets. Our media monitoring showed that several broadcasters made a visible effort to cover a broad range of electoral contestants, contributing to the information available for voters to make an informed choice. Several newly established parties claimed a lack of coverage by traditional media and opted to use social networks instead. Election day, including the vote count, was assessed positively overall. But like my colleagues, I want to highlight issues around voter accessibility in polling stations, as well as some procedural matters around overcrowding and attempts at interference by some as issues which need to be addressed for the future. To come back now, if I may, to some essential points that are worth repeating and which George and Carrie have already stated. The election authorities delivered on their mandate professionally. All candidates could campaign freely throughout the process, and voters were provided with a broad range of options. But the highly aggressive, personalised and often accusatory style of political campaigning overshadowed opportunities for more substantive public debate. And I'd like to emphasise that the election is not yet over for us as observers. Of course, to ensure that we have the fullest possible picture of the election environment, we will remain for some time to follow the developments after the election and observe the complaints and appeals procedure. All this information will feed into our final report, which we'd expect to complete some 2 months from now. And before I end, I'd like to acknowledge the hard work of the team of experts that I have had the privilege to lead and work with, as well as our local staff, who have been so committed in their work throughout. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.